Welcome to the show. Today, we have an incredibly inspiring guest who has dedicated her life to making a difference across numerous fields, from defending democracy to advocating for fair wages and beyond. I'm John DeBona, and I'm glad you're here. This is where we cut through the noise and break down the issues happening in our country. Connie Coopersmith is with us today, and we're diving deep into the journey that it took her to get where she's at today, her impactful projects, and her vision for the future. We'll also discuss the urgent threat posed by Project 2025 and how it could undermine everything she's worked for. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. Well, Connie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here today.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and I officially wrapped up my last trip on the road. I've been going to all the different battleground states and advancing for either the vice president or Tim Walz or surrogates like the second gentleman, and lastly for President Bill Clinton, who is a tremendous road warrior. And the good thing about what we're doing is we are hitting every spot and going heavily into rural communities to places that get neglected and are excited and enthusiastic, and just everybody's out there, and then we're not ignoring basic principles of old fashioned door knocking and phone banking. But some of the greatest thing is just to engage voters. So whether we do something such as President Clinton at a private home, but outside on a porch and several hundred people show up, or going to churches, or going to Tim Wallace was just at a great barbecue joint in Gastonia, North Carolina today before he flies back to Wisconsin and Michigan, and then he goes home to vote. We're just trying to do everything and be comprehensive. And then Kamala Harris, she did Saturday Night Live as a surprise last night, and then was up early and went to church in Detroit this morning. Um, and then she'll wind up in Philadelphia tomorrow night for a big concert and so forth. So there's just a lot of enthusiasm and just not taking any state or area for granted.
So, in our first segment, we're going to address the path to activism and shed some light on what that's like. Um, Connie, every activist has a story that begins somewhere, a
Yeah.
moment, right, or an influence that lights on fire. Um,
Yep.
so, for some, it's personal experience. For others, it's an event that changes their perspective. And I'd really love to know, what was that moment for you?
I'll be honest with you. I grew up with this outside of Washington, D.C. My mother came from rural Wisconsin, and fell in love with politics. So as kids, we all were kind of dragged everywhere, if you will. But we got a miniature donkey to take with us to all these events. So I grew up with it. And then on my own, I became a sports writer and a horse magazine person and someone who worked for ABC Sports and so forth. And I met Bill Clinton at a racetrack in Arkansas, and I knew he'd be president. And ever since then, I've been active in trying to recruit other people to be involved. And my motto is from Shakespeare: joy lies in the doing. So if you get off the couch and get up and do something, it's energetic, and you feel like you're laying out it all out, whether you win or lose, and you're I've now been doing this for a long time, so I've just met tons of different people, and sometimes they're kids, and we get them involved. And some people just took off the last 2 weeks worth of work, and this is their vacation, and have gone to battleground states and just knocked on doors or helped out at rallies or just done something, and they feel so great about it because they are frightened what the alternative will be.
Oh, indeed. That is powerful. And it's very clear. Your passion is deeply rooted. Um,
Yep.
I'm curious though, along this journey, you've worked in various roles, from government to strategic advisory.
Right.
Um, So, can we look at how these experiences have shaped your unique approach to making change, especially as we now face the threat of Project
Yeah.
2025?
I would say one of the more profound things that happened to me in the last 10 years was Hillary Clinton's loss in 2016. Um, we all worked really, really hard, but I would say at core, nobody really thought that Donald Trump, that our country would elect somebody like him that was so crude, so awful. We put out ads showing just footage of Donald Trump, and we thought that was going to be enough, plus all the hard work. So after our massive depression, we got up off our butts and we formed a group called the Hill Raisers. And we actively went out and looked for people to run for office and started groups like Run for Something or and then the Parkland shooting in Florida activated another group, and we did March for Our Lives. So what we've been, and then now the Dobbs decision and environmental impact and so forth. So what we're trying to do is get all these, and I've been involved in something called One Fair Wage, where we're trying to get tipped workers to at least get minimum wage and fighting for minimum wage to increase. But the only way change happens is at the ballot box and by calling your representatives and making them accountable. So I try to reach out to people who have talent like you do, know how to do videos and stuff and tell short stories and just, so it's the old fashioned stuff, but getting to people where they are and trying to harness people's different talents. You may not like knocking on doors. I totally get that, but you have a genius at what you do. So it's just trying to get everyone together, get the money that needs to be raised and pull it all together. And then also treat people really well at these events and so forth. So it looks like it's competent and that we're family. But it takes a lot of energy. And what's great right now is we organized a bunch of different things where we got people to vote early and then moved to a battleground state for especially for the last 2 weeks. And I think that could make the difference. I think our ground game and our energy. On the other side, they have a lot of money being thrown at, a lot of nastiness and so forth. We're trying to be the more joyful campaign, if you will, and really voter engagement.
Well, outstanding. Thank you for doing all of that work. Um, your experience spans multiple fields. Um,
Yep.
and it's incredible to see how your background has equipped you with such a multifaceted approach. After the break, we're going to shift gears and dive into some of the impactful projects that you've led and how they might be affected by Project
Great.
2025.
Great.
When I ran for Congress, we flipped more Trump voters blue than any other congressional race in the country. We did this by calling out the GOP's lies and speaking truth against their $1 million attack ads. I've now partnered with Turn Left, and we're taking the fight to the extremists like Marge the Trainwreck Green, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley, to name a few. And I'm asking each and every one of you all to donate $25 today to the group that is absolutely helping to send these jackaloons packing. It's time to speak truth to power and turn left.
Well, this portion of the show is dedicated to key projects, achievement, and Project 2025 threats. Connie,
Yep.
indeed, your work with defending democracy and your advisory role at the TMRW Foundation are just a few examples of the impactful projects that you've been part of. Can you tell us about a couple of projects that stand out to you and ones that have had a significant impact in how Project 2025 could threaten those achievements?
Yeah. And Project 2025 is for real. They're very serious about it. They're very detailed about it. The transition team is full, on the other side, is full of people who want that to work. And basically, Trump and his acolytes want to put a blowtorch to all the good policies that have been created, including Obamacare, and they don't have a real plan other than just to end it as we know it. So I've been involved on the healthcare issue for a long time. Um, what I'm proud of now, and I hope we have a galvanizing effect, or even the gun. the gun issues and with kids and in schools and so forth, that we it started after it really started in the 90s after Columbine and the Brady Bill and so forth. And we had such a great measure, and that got George Bush the second, George W. Bush let that lapse. And we just didn't have the members of Congress to keep it going. And assault weapons are all over the place. I mean, we have more guns than people in this country. But after Parkland in particular, we were able to really get a lot of younger people to organize. We had a really peaceful march in Washington, D.C. with 800,000 people. The organizer of that is Maxwell Frost, who's now a member of Congress who's up for reelection. I think the most important thing is that even when things regress, that you have to still stay in the fight. Every single freedom, every single thing that we have to keep on fighting for. So it's trying to keep people, younger people, motivated. Another thing is with one fair wage, because people are rightly concerned about the economy and the greed factor that we have with so many employers and organizations, is what we did is we got the actual tipped workers, restaurant workers, to organize and to sign ballot initiatives and get people signed up. And so we actually pay them to do all these ballot initiatives, and they've all been legal and approved. And every setback we have, you have to pick yourself up and get back on the horse, so to speak. So, as somebody would say, it's cowboy up. You just keep on fighting and keep on organizing and keep on getting people motivated. And then to have the genius of some of the stuff that you do with the commercials and the little videos, it's just so impactful too. So, it's harnessing everybody's talent for the best possible causes, and going into all the different corners of the country. When you go to Georgia, you don't just go to Savannah or Atlanta, which we've hit, but you go to smaller towns, Augusta, wherever. I did some trips with President Biden post all these hurricanes, not just to help people out and let them know that FEMA works, because on the other side, it's so anti-government, that they've done these ridiculous threats and terrible, lies and scenarios that have taken hold, and we've got to set the truth right. And even when good, responsible Republicans have tried to respond and say, no, FEMA's on the ground, they're actually doing a great job. The White House is responding, and it's really hard to fight some of these terrible rumors and so forth. And I think that's a major change that's happened in this country in the last 40 years, especially, is we're all in independent silos, and no one has the authority that somebody, let's say, Walter Cronkite had many years ago, or anybody has now, or the White House or anything. And I don't know how we build that up again, but we have to do that. We just have to really individually and collectively work on trying to heal this country.
Indeed. And fighting for fair wages is just so important, especially now. And
Yeah,
and
it's really critical, because there are and one of the things we're trying to fight for is the child tax credit that eliminated basically child poverty, but it got rescinded again. So we have to fight for that again. And the irony is, so many people on the other side vote against their own self-interest, and it's just something that's hard for us to get a grasp on, whether it's culture wars or whatever. I think it's ever since the Democratic Party became pro civil rights, but it wasn't just civil rights for Black people. It's for everyone, that everyone gets access and everyone gets health care. Everyone, you fight for education and you fight for good wages and safety. So it's not about onerous government, it's about fair government, good government, but getting companies to be responsible. It's hard. And, Trump, as a businessman, when he wouldn't pay his bills to a lot of, small business owners, they would go bankrupt. And he just, part of his calculus was, let them try to sue me. They never had the money that they could successfully sue him. So he would just, do business that way. And that's unconscionable. But but he's considered a success. It's sort of, he's a diabolical success, I suppose. and he's been able to skirt things all along that other people don't have access to. And I think one of the other things is, as we're fighting to get better health care for everyone, is to also have corporations pay their fair share in taxes, or else it's going to be the tax burden will be on the very people we're trying to help.
Oh, that is so true. And with Donald Trump wanting to end overtime, oh my gosh, end healthcare, get rid of the Department of Education, fire.
Yep.
It just it seems like this is a nightmare, an absolute
Right.
nightmare.
And get rid of FEMA, which is a phenomenal organization with total dedicated professionals who fan out everywhere, and they work under terrible conditions when they're in a site. They're not staying at luxury places or having huge meals or anything. They're in there fighting every day for people. And we've made big commitments to states like in Western North Carolina that have not been hit with anything like that in maybe a century. So we also have to think about what climate change really is and how do we build better. We have to build back better and make the hard choices. Where do we build? How do we build? And also work with insurance companies, so we can get more insurance for people and get banks to loan and, all that kind of stuff. But we have to think holistically and comprehensively.
Absolutely. Thank you for that insight, Connie. After the break, we're going to look to the future and how we can collectively counter threats like Project 2025.
Today, we have an
Great.
amazing show for you. Join myself, special guests, and celebrities. What's going on, Ice-T? Andrew Yang. Somebody else was hopping on. Oh, hold on.
What's going on, battle?
As we roast GQP Jackaloon. He may not be a real businessman, but he is one hell of a con artist. That's what it is. That's what they got indicted for. Treason and sedition. And addresses the headlines of the day. They must be held accountable. Live streaming every night. I got more time in a friggin' port or in a friggin' combat zone than you've probably got in the military. This is Ojeda Live.
So, in our last segment, we are going to be talking about how we can fight back. Connie, with your wealth of experience, you must have a powerful vision for where activism is headed, especially in areas like social justice and wage equity and democracy protection.
Yeah. Well, what it's going to take is are people applying for jobs in government to look at that as a possible career, even if it's like 4 years or 8 years to do real public service. So you have an energetic new group of people as well as people who've been doing this for a bit, but you really want to have younger, newer people or people who might be 50s, 60s, 70s who are going to switch their careers because you want to have a great class of public servants. We also want to, in the next administration, assuming Kamala and Tim Walz win, is all the activists and all the people we've gotten in, whether they're Hollywood stars or people like you, or other people with who know how to do content creating, that we can stay informed and on message on how we tackle each issue and really explain things to people, why we're doing this, why we're doing the child tax care credit, why we're fighting for this. And we have to do stuff ground up in every state. You need really good people, even if you don't run for office, staying involved, going to public, PTA meetings, going to local city commissions. So you're fighting for mass transit and good public housing, or stuff that's fair. It's all about fairness more than anything else. You don't want, for example, in hurricane ravaged areas, for big banks to come in and buy up everything, or Jeff Bezos. That's sort of one of the things that they're doing. We have to do something for younger people to feel that they're part of the American dream and that they can buy a house or get an apartment, not have the price gouging. We do not, one of the things they want to torch is this administration worked really hard to negotiate the price of drugs, and we want to include more drugs than just insulin. I mean, we should not be paying $1,000 a month for certain drugs, which is what's happening now. So, but it's going to take an active, engaged electorate. So, what do we do to keep people involved? And that's the whole comms department, because I think a failure, to be honest, of the Biden White House is their comms team, as talented as they are, have not been able to communicate effectively how much progress we've actually made. And because of that, there are too many people who think the country's going in the wrong direction when you think all around the world what the COVID, what the pandemic did to people, it's changed everything and we're getting out of it and we are the envy of the world. But too many of us don't feel that. And that could unfortunately have deleterious consequences for us on Tuesday. So it's not about brainwashing people, it's about educating people and trying to reach out to different groups of people. How do we get stuff across and how do you stay engaged, and let us know what you're interested in too, what matters to you, and to not give up.
Oh, Connie, thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your busy schedule. Yeah,
I'm thrilled.
vote blue.
Vote blue. Yeah, and thanks for everything you're doing. And everyone, if you don't vote, you can't complain. And don't think it all stops with the voting. It's about active engagement. And people in office really do care. So please reach out to all your elected officials, whether who are ever in your district, whether they're Republican or Democrat. You need to let them know how you feel about the issues. That's the only way we get change.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And thanks for putting up with me too.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Connie, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your incredible projects, and your vision for a better future. Today, we explored the spark that ignited your activism, how your extensive experience across government and advisory roles has equipped you to make real change, and the ways in which Project 2025 threatens everything you've worked for. We also dove into your work with initiatives like Defending Democracy and One Fair Wage, highlighting how crucial these causes are now more than ever. As we look to the future, Connie's words remind us that activism isn't a sprint. It's a marathon requiring persistent effort, bold vision, and a commitment to never back down. The future of activism will be shaped by individuals willing to push boundaries, fight for equity, and protect our democracy from those who seek to erode it. It's about building a society where every person has a voice and where justice is not a privilege, but a guarantee. We must reimagine what our communities can look like when we prioritize fair wages, access to quality education, and the protection of our civil liberties. It's about holding on to the hope that change is possible, even in the face of daunting challenges like Project 2025. The path forward is one of collaboration and resilience. We have to show up, not just on election day, but every day, because defending democracy is an ongoing responsibility. In Connie's vision, the future is built by everyday heroes who refuse to be silent. It's about empowering one another, educating ourselves and our communities, and using every tool at our disposal to make progress. It's about ensuring that our children and future generations inherit a country where equality and opportunity aren't ideals, but realities. The work ahead is hard, but it's necessary. And with each step we take, we inch closer to the change we want to see. So, what can you do today to make a difference? First, stay informed. Understanding the issues at hand is the first step in becoming an effective advocate. Read up on Project 2025, share what you learn, and engage in conversations with your community to spread awareness. Use your voice to hold leaders accountable. Write to your representatives. Attend town halls and demand that your elected officials stand up for democracy and fairness. And when it's time to vote, show up and bring your friends and family with you. Lastly, visit turnleftpac.org to support progressive candidates and causes. Sign up for their emails, follow their work on social media, and share their content to help amplify their mission. This isn't just about resisting dangerous agendas, it's about proactively building a better, more just future. Thank you for tuning in to this special episode of our podcast. If you feel inspired, share this conversation with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, change starts with all of us. Stay inspired, stay informed, and keep pushing for a better tomorrow. Visit turnleftpac.org to learn more about how you can contribute to lasting change. And until next time, stay vigilant, stay hopeful, and stay engaged. This is John DeBona, signing off. Stay tuned next for Ojeda Live. Let's get to work, everyone.